of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here and tell a little bit about DSharp and this very interesting case that we have had. And I'm really happy to be here. I'm Tero-Matti Kinnen. I'm CEO of DSharp. And today we are talking about the data's impact on healthcare reform in Finland. So that's the idea of what we are talking today. Before we go into more details about the case, the very big case we actually have, I'm telling you a little bit about DSharp and our methodology. So I'm taking the opportunity to let you know more about us first. But then we go through these. What is the actual change in Finland's healthcare sector, which was really significant change a couple of years ago, and what was the data challenge in southwest part of Finland that we are talking today, and how we did this with this two-track strategy, and how we work alongside with the continuous consolidation that goes on. It's still going on actually. And what is the power of process and culture in the end. So that's the main things today. First, some about DSharp. We are a company that builds modeling and data warehouse automation tool. And we say that we are the front runner in model-based business data platforms and tools. So I will show a little bit later. The idea is that we build a conceptual model, map the data to it, and then we build a data platform, the data vault structures, all just by pressing the button. We are growing pretty fast. We get new customers, new partners, new people all the time. This approach and methodology, we think it's quite unique, but at the same time, it's based on standards. We are really only creating really standard data vault out of the model, basically. So that's what we do. Our services, of course, alongside with the tool and the licenses, we are also we give developer support. And we have this training program. Even today, I had a training session just before this event, and we have certifications for those who are interested in learning how to use the tool. And then we have these professional services. We are supporting our end customers and partners in implementing these data platforms with our tool. We have these tools, these products, DSharp Studio, which is the full no-code automation tool for building data platforms. And then we have also you can purchase separately the one part of the full tool that's called the Studio Modeler, which only has the modeling capabilities. And then we have this viewer, which is available for free if you want to just browse what kind of models you have. So that's basically our products at this point. So in our methodology, how to enable the utilization of data. The idea is very simple. You first create the business model, and what it actually is the conceptual modeling. It's the common language between business and IT. And after that, you just map the data to it, whatever your data sources are, and then you push the button and you automate your business model-driven data platform by that. And that's how you really can achieve the big leap in productivity. We also say that you should build your projects, your data platform projects in small pieces iteratively, because the fundamental nature of data project is highly iterative. We don't have this. We really say that you shouldn't spend few years building a data platform. You should do it in a couple of weeks, take it into production, get some feedback, build on top of that and always enlarge what you have already done. And for this, we are using scalable architecture as a physical model that is built automatically, and that's Data Vault. So for us, the development is continuous, not one time. It's always changing impact assessment and change it. It's agile project management. That's the essential for project success. What is the business model? Well, it can look, for example, something like this. We are always modeling with the business concept, the business terms. We are building things with natural language. For example, if you have persons in your data, what you want to see, then you have in the end, then you have a concept or class called person. You have concept or class called gender. And if you have projects that you want to see, then you model project. If you have accounting data, you have accounting entries, you have accounts there, and everything is done with natural language. And this is actually what the business vault will look like after you have implemented the Data Vault. The Data Vault is something that is more or less hidden. You don't. It's not hidden, but you don't have to use it in anything if you don't want to, because everything is after it's stored in data is stored in Data Vault structures, but you are always using the data through the business layer. Well, you can go to the raw vault layers, of course, but this is basically a basic idea that you can use this kind of structure. And this kind of business model is also a good talking point with business people, because we are always using the terms that they are using in their business. So that's the idea. This is the common language. And what we are creating finally here, this is the center part here. You all know what is going on in this data landscape. You have source systems on the left side. You have some end data requirements, end use on the right side. And what we do, we start with the use cases, the data requirements, the information needs, and then we model it with our tool. We do the mapping with source data, and the middle part here is built automatically. And you can, when you have done that, then you just select what is your target platform, and you can automatically create all structures, all data structures, all ETL procedures. Everything is done for you automatically. So that's our idea of the tool. So finally, on to the business, what we are talking about today. So data's impact on healthcare reform in Finland, how a business-driven, system-independent architecture empowered transformation in Southwest Finland. That's Varsinais-Suomi, that's the county, well-being county that we are talking about. The term Varha is actually the short version of the well-being county. That is the customer here. And it really is, as the title in the invitation said, that change in overnight. Well, it's not an overnight change, but pretty much it is, as you will see later on in the presentation. So what happened in Finland? There was we used to have this healthcare sector that every municipality had their own healthcare and social services. So this map of Finland shows that we have 300 municipalities in Finland, and all of those had their own healthcare systems, healthcare providers, social services. Everything was done with the municipalities, and as you can see, there's a lot of costs involved in this. So we have this rising pressure of aging population, inequality of getting the services, unsustainable costs, always rising and rising. And the reform goal was to create 21 well-being service counties called hyvinvointialueet in Finnish, but well-being service counties is actually a good translation of that. To centralize this healthcare and social services service responsibility. This is a big issue in Finland. They had planned and tried even many different models, and politicians were not able to make a decision what kind of model is good. Some say that we should have only 5 regions. Some say we should have more than 21. Maybe the truth is something in between. Maybe it's something like 12 that it will go in coming years, but we'll see how it goes. Currently, this is 21 counties at the moment that are in production right now. And what we are talking today is the southwest corner, the number 14 here, which is called Varsinais-Suomi or Southwest Finland in English. And what happened there? So this is the map of Southwest Finland. All these 27 municipalities were involved, and all of these had their own different systems, different services, and they were running it by themselves. And they created one big county out of all this, and this is nowadays it's more than 500,000 people who are living in this area. And the services that they are providing here are primary care, specialty care, social services, rescue operations, and this is done by the Southwest Wellbeing County. It's operating with 2.2 billion euros budget, and there are working 23,000 professionals. It's the second largest well-being services county. It's actually the second largest public organization in Finland. So that's quite a big case that we have here. But there's the data challenge. We want to lead the system and operations with data. The problem is that even though they had planned this 20 years, we didn't have too much time to plan how to do this. The history here is something like this. In like 8 years ago, there was another try how to build these services in counties, and that was pretty much well planned thing, because they had these temporary organizations already building up a couple of years before it was about to start. But right when it was about to start, the government noticed that the parliament is not going to pass the legislation. So the government actually resigned. The Finnish government actually resigned, and that try kind of faded away. And now they started again planning another different kind of thing, and people said, okay, now we don't waste any money in planning. We just wait what kind of legislation there will be. And in the end, when the legislation came through in 2022, it was summertime when it came through, and then in typical Finnish way, if you decide something, then you don't waste any time after the decision. They only gave 6 months for everyone to build this up. So we knew that even though we did have those POCs and some plans there, we only had 6 months to build everything. And it became clear that the new leadership of that county needed data to support their leadership from day one. Otherwise, it's really difficult, even impossible, to know what is happening all over the county and what are the actual challenges and how to provide a service network and stuff like that. So they really needed data from us there. And the funny thing is that the 27 municipalities, they had 41 clinical and client information systems up and running. And they were using those in many different ways. So it was extremely fragmented data landscape. A lot of data that is not, we didn't have centralized reporting, we didn't have unified metrics. It was really difficult to build things on top of that. And as I said earlier, we had less than 6 months to prepare for operational readiness. So based on this, when the legislation came through, we knew that we can't solve this just by building the normal data warehouse with reporting. That's the correct way to do this, actually, is to build the normal system and start integrating those systems into the data warehouse and build the reporting on that. But that would have taken too long time. So we had to figure out something else. And this is the part when things happen overnight. So we created this two-track data strategy. Track one was a KPI warehouse. And the idea was that we just built a very simple KPI warehouse which includes all the needed key performance indicators that the county will need in order to run the business. And we are extracting these KPIs directly from the existing reports and exporting it out of those 41 client systems, clinical and client systems. And we normalize all the data to consistent metrics. Doesn't matter where it comes from, we just make rules that it fits in the KPI definition there. And we built this so that it's operational by early 2023. So that enabled the continuous leadership reporting from day one. And this part also actually bought us some time, because by this we could provide some information and pretty good information to the leadership what is going on, and we can then start also parallel to track two, which is the full data warehouse. So we started planning and building that in parallel, and that's the correct way to do this actually. It's built for long term. It's a scalable integration of raw transactional data. It's anchored on business concepts, not systems. And this track one, these KPIs, they are summarized data. You can't really drill down on anything on those KPIs. It's just what you put in, just what you get out. But you can do the leadership with that. This full data warehouse, as you all know, as professionals, you know that with this one we can change the point of view whatever we want and whenever we want. So that's really the thing how to do this. So the idea was to get unified insights, get decision support from day one, and build also a future-proof solution from on the side of that KPI warehouse as well. Some things about what the track one consists of. This is actually the logical model of the KPI warehouse. Well, it's we do have this in Finnish, but I translated it in for you as English, so you get the idea. So the idea is that we have this KPI value here as a core class, and then we have these different KPIs here and in this class, and then we have all the things that you want to have for your KPI, what kind of dimensions, as you would want to say, for each of the KPIs here, and for this structure we extracted the data from the source systems and loaded it into the data warehouse. And nowadays it consists of 480 KPIs, even a little bit more, and it includes healthcare, social services, rescue services, population forecasts, national indicators for welfare and health, to be able to combine it to see how other countries are doing, to compare us towards them. Then we have the social and health services vouchers, resident assessment instruments, RAI meters, all those included there. And currently there are 22 million KPI values already there after we have been running it from start of 2023. And we do have this financial reporting model also included, and it's possible to also integrate, get the financial figures related to these KPI values, which is also important. And this is updated monthly from the reports. We can't refresh the KPI figures every day because it's really actually a really big task to get it out of those 41 systems and get it unified. So it's not that fast, but we manage to give every month new information from start of 2023 for the leadership. The implementation, the technical things, everything is done with DSharp Studio, and data is stored in data vault format in data warehouse for this. The track 2 is actually the traditional way of doing this. I have one small sub-model here for you to see. This is some emergency when the ambulance goes to a site. This is the data logical model, conceptual model for that actually, and that's the actual emergency task here this one, and then you have these task units there, and what kind of units you have, what kind of personnel you have on site when the emergency happens and things like that. But we started to develop that at the second half of 2023, and the production started very soon after the development started, in a couple of weeks after that first parts, I would say, because this is iterative development. New use cases are going to production continuously. Currently in production, we do have over 100 sub-models. Some models like this, they are all connected to each other. We have 400 classes there. These type of classes are here. So something that happens based on these are moment intervals are actually basis of the fact tables. The rest of these are more or less for different dimensions. The Infomarts in production, we have 80 plus fact tables, 330 dimensions. The data that we have currently is almost 9 billion rows of data that's already loaded into data warehouse. That's almost 5 terabytes of data. And currently we have in development over 200 classes right now. So from those 200 in coming months, most of them are going into production. So this is ongoing process that we are doing all the time, and it's in production at the same time as we are developing it as well. And data is loaded from source systems daily to the data warehouse, and model and implementation is created automatically with DSharp Studio, and data is stored also in data vault format here. And then the big thing here with this, as I said, we had this 41 platforms, 41 client information, clinical and client information system platforms. They are, of course, because this county goes from 27 municipalities to one county, they are of course reducing the number of source systems. They are doing consolidation there. It looks like it doesn't go to one system. It probably goes to something like 6 to 8, I believe, in the end. And there is a stepwise consolidation plan that is going on. Some of the consolidation is already done, and some of the consolidation is ongoing right now, and some will happen in a couple of years' time. And the data platform where we actually load the data, it accommodates the data from both old and new systems. And the idea here with this conceptual model that we have, the model itself doesn't change, but the data changes where we load the data from the source systems change, and the mapping changes. So actually it's only an adapter update. When one system goes down, we are then getting the data out of the new system, and everything runs smoothly, and the reporting side doesn't know what happens because the new data is flowing in the same concepts, same classes that it was flowing with the old system. So we don't have to recreate a model for this. The model, the end side, what the end users are seeing, it stays the same, even if we change the system on behind it. So that's interesting part of this system, of this project. And the idea, once again, is that we get system independence through the business modeling. We have this core design principle. We model the business, not the systems. And the methodology that DSharp uses is used to define stable conceptual entities. And we produce the middle part of this architecture picture here automatically. The storage layers, the raw vault, the hubs, the satellites, links, etc. Those in the storage layer is automatically created. The ETL code is automatically created, and the model layer for consumption of the data is automatically created. So that enables the flexibility during the consolidation and beyond. The data platform, data warehouse is something that actually is never finished. It continues to evolve over time and change. And if you have this kind of conceptual modeling things on top of that, it's easier to understand what goes on. And the conceptual model actually changes when the business changes. It doesn't really matter what happens on below behind it as a data. But if the business changes, then the model, of course, changes too. Then I want to talk about a couple of slides about the process and the culture. So the Southwest Finland county, the data platform team, actually, they had a very clear picture what they wanted from the start. They wanted to focus on the process ownership. They knew that this is not a technology thing. The technology works. Doesn't really matter what the technology is. The technology works, but the thing that usually is difficult is the process. And they created, for example, this process called from information need to information product. And this process is fully owned by Varha. And they always, when there's a need, they always start, if somebody says, I want to see this kind of information, they start by defining the need, then they define how to acquire the data, they define the model, they define how to deliver it to the end customer, and then they get the feedback from the end users. And this process is actually led by internal personnel of Varha, of the Southwest Southwest County. And the consultants they use, they are there as flexible support, not owners. And this actually ensures the long-term capability and organizational learning because they actually own the process and they know what to do, and they just use the consultants as extra hands there to do the dirty work, so to say. And finally, it's not. It really is the culture, not just technology. It never is just about the tools. The technology that we are using is only an enabler. It's not the solution. The real transformation and success actually comes from clear roles and ownership, repeatable processes, shared understanding of data's purpose. And we did make our methodology makes the architecture work, but in the end, it was the Varha's leadership that made it actually stick, and they really want. They have a real good idea how to run this kind of data platform project, which is very nice to see. And it has been a really challenge and really actually very fun project too. So as a conclusion here, we have this system that is built with method, owned with purpose. We have this dual layer architecture with fast insights and deep modeling. It's future-proof with conceptual modeling. It supports the ongoing consolidation. You can change any system behind it anytime you want, just do the new mapping. It's fully owned by the customer actually, and it's powered by DSharp methodology, and it's enabled by the leadership. That's more or less what I wanted to show you today. And here is my contact information if you want more information later on. And now I'm happy to answer if there's any questions.
Great, thank you so much for that. Really interesting. There's 2 questions so far that I'd like to field. So the first one is from Johan. I hope I'm saying that right. I like the idea of a KPI warehouse to satisfy urgent needs. How did you guarantee the data is correct, i.e. good data lineage?
Yeah, you do have the data lineage because it's data vault actually, and you can see every KPI, every figure. You can see where it came from and who is the responsible person for that report, where it came from. So you have the good lineage there, and of course it's a lot of testing by the customer. They ensure that when the figure comes to the report, it really is the same as it was in the original report, or if it's changed, that it's changed by the rules that we have defined. Yes.
Yes, no, actually, thanks very much. Actually, you answered the Mac later on in the presentation. You mentioned that you use the whole Maxi Azure sort of framework, and that would have helped with your lineage. So that answered my question. Was just like a thought coming into my head, because I know that's always a problem. Actually, I like the idea of the KPIs, but to get business to actually trust that data while you're building the real data warehouse. Okay, but I do like that dual way of doing it. That's something I really will take away from actually what you said. Yeah, that's a fantastic idea. Thanks very much.
Great. Thanks. Good to hear.
Thank you. And then we got one from Willis as well. So how long did it take you to build the DSharp framework? So I guess that's a question about the tool itself.
Yeah, the model, if you're talking about the KPI model, that's a couple of hours work. That's very easy. That's very simple model. But of course, this when we are building this kind of sub models here, it's usually done with in a workshop with the customer, and we have this ongoing process of building these models. We are building it beforehand all the time. We have 2-hour workshops every week doing this, and we build one model in a workshop like this. But of course, you always need to check what the data is actually and fit it into the model. So it takes a little bit more than that, just that 2-hour workshop. It's usually something office work behind the scenes, usually a day or two or something like that.
That's really useful information. I think what Will was getting at though is how the actual DSharp Studio. How long did it? Is that something that's been developed over a few years, or?
The tool itself. Sorry.
No worries. It's really useful information anyway. All good.
Yeah, the tool itself is rather old. The company is 3 years old. We started this in 3 years old, but we are actually a spin-off of a consulting company where this tool was their internal tool, and we bought this tool to ourselves and started developing it. The first versions of the tool are basically from 10 years ago or something like that, but it's built. We added the modeling capability last year to this, so yeah, it's rather new in the market as a complete tool. Yeah.
Okay, that's really good. Thank you. We have a question from Albert, which I think it was a follow-up question about what Johan was saying, which was for the KPI warehouse, are you keeping just the definition or the metadata for the KPI, or the actual data around the KPI?
Yeah, only the actual this KPI value actually holds only the value of the KPI, and the metadata of the KPI is in this KPI class here, which is it has its name and description and upper limit, lower limit, aggregation method, something like that. So it's all there.
Okay, so you're keeping both the KPI metadata and the actual data for the KPI. Yeah. Okay, that's really cool. All right. And then another follow-up question: is there any real-time reporting requirement adopted in this fast delivery?
No, at the moment, no.
Yeah, I guess real-time reporting and observability and things like that are kind of another layer that you build later, right?
Yeah. We have plans for that, but we don't have any use case also at the moment for that. So, but we will build something else. It will be probably most likely direct view to the data or something like that. Yeah.
When you're building something this fast, there's some things you have to prioritize, and I guess getting the data to the user is the highest priority.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, great. Thank you. Another question from Balaji just come in. So once the conceptual model is created, how automated is the generation of the physical data model? So the ETL load, business logic, data governance.
Yeah. Just push the button and that's it. Yeah. Push the button and install it into the data warehouse. It creates the installation package that you install it and then you start running.
I think most tools in this kind of most tools in the landscape for data vault at the moment and data warehousing generally usually kind of front load the modeling and the metadata, and they build everything from there. Partly because data vault itself is very pattern based. So if you've got all of that metadata there, you can generally generate most of it.
Yeah. It's actually a rule-based engine that is there, and if you know data vault, then if you look at this kind of model, these red ones actually they become non-historized links. These green ones, they have hubs and satellites and links if they are referring to something else. These are reference tables, these blue ones, and etc. So that's how we actually built the data vault. The user doesn't have to know what kind of data vault objects it will create, but of course they are interested in that, and they can see what kind of physical implementation it will create. So the tool will show that physical implementation for them too as well, even though they don't have to look at it if they don't want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's really good. I think this is a really good demonstration of one of the main reasons why Data Vault prioritizes and stresses the importance of the modeling part so much. Apart from anything else, it leads to better automation, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but for us, it's easier to implement, to draw this kind of conceptual model or logical model, because you don't have to, we don't model the data vault. We don't select what are the hubs, because the hubs are created automatically whenever they are needed.
Yeah, no, exactly. Great, thank you. Got a few more questions coming in. So another question from Adna. Data vault tables created as physical tables. So are they created as physical tables or delta tables?
Currently, they are physical tables. In this, we need a relational database there. But later this year, we are also we will also have the support for delta tables as well. So you can do the lakehouse implementation with the tool as well.
That's really cool. Yeah, I think as storage grows and things are more virtualized, there's already a shift happening with things moving to be less physical, isn't there? So yeah, it's quite interesting actually. I did miss your first question. Do you want to ask it yourself, Johan? Actually,
yes, it's something. Actually, I've got extensive actually healthcare experience in South Africa, and one of the biggest problems is you get all these codes, ICD codes, and whatever. And how did you how did you actually pull this into this model you're going to build, or how? I guess actually, I don't know if I can explain it if people don't understand, but it's it's a big pain.
We have ICD. For ICD, we have this small model for that. So actually it's a hierarchical class one. It's only one class that holds all the ICD codes, and that's it basically. Yeah.
So okay, so you just use that, simple. And then and that is very simple. You actually incorporated that into Data Vault, no problem.
Yeah, exactly. And if you have, for example, if you have a diagnosis code, ICD code for something like this EMS task here, if they would do a diagnosis there, then we would just add the ICD table class here and draw the line there, and that's it. It works.
Cool. Actually, just while I've got while I'm just speaking to you right now, actually, I just asked another question, because you've got this about all these about 400 plus classes and stuff. Actually, how did you convert the business process into these classes?
It's all about It's not it's not a business process. Actually, of course, it's related to the business process, because when we talk about in the workshop with the business people, they tell that this is how we work, and this is how the process goes. And then we ask what kind of information you are using in that process phase. And when they tell us that, then we draw a new class there. And okay, that in that phase you are using this kind of information, and this is how things are related to each other. So this is this is information modeling, not process modeling. But usually in my modeling trainings, I will always say that with this kind of modeling, you will get a good view of the process too, because it's so close to that.
Okay. No, well, thanks. I understand. You've kind of answered my question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great, really good conversation here. Hey, for the question, so I will try to make this clear. We've got Zihao wondering about is the infra cost the main driver in a business with, say, 100 terabytes of storage?
No.
Is the data vault the right pattern to follow? Is it going to be with infrastructure?
Yeah, well, the infrastructure here is that the county itself has really they are very strict on data protection and stuff like that. So far, they have built this in their own environment. They are not ready to go to cloud, for example. But if they anytime want to go to cloud, we can easily just change the target and it can be implemented into the cloud as well in totally different environment if that's the issue. I think the infrastructure cost here is not relevant. It's not so much everything else is the more important thing here.
Yeah, I guess with a lot of these is the cost saving to the business by being able to use their data better. Does that outweigh the cost of the infrastructure and the storage and all that stuff?
Yeah, and cost of building this fast and getting the results out fast, not having a big project with 20 consultants running it. So we're actually building this only with 5 consultants currently. So it's not a big team that can handle this kind of method is used.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Another follow-up question from Johan. How did you build the data vault on Azure?
On Azure, in Azure you can actually select a couple of options. Right now you can select Azure SQL Database or Fabric Data Warehouse or Synapse Data Warehouse, which is the older version of the Fabric Data Warehouse. So you can choose from those targets and just build it there. For example, if you choose the Synapse Data Warehouse, then we will also automatically create what is the best distribution and all these physical things are selected for you. You don't have to care about those things at all. We are doing that for you.
Yeah. Good answer. Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. Can I just quickly chip in? Sorry, yes, just about the answer. So what about performance? Actually, how was performance? Okay, and I'm always as a data architect as well. Performance would always be the first question. Well, data vault is so good. So obviously that's
honestly, we do have some issues when we are doing the full loads for the first time, because the full loads can take like 20 hours or something like that, because there is so much data there. But now we have this almost 9 billion rows of data. We are loading things overnight in on-premise SQL Server. Right now it takes a few hours. It's the incremental loads that we are using there. It's not an issue. And I strongly suggest that everyone uses incremental loads every time. So the full loads are only needed one time when you start it.
Okay, no, thanks. Actually, just musing.
Yeah, but you are correct.
Because we know real world problems.
Yeah, that's a real world problem.
Yeah, no, great questions. No worries. Thank you. I think we'll have this as the last question, unless anyone will come in the next few minutes. So Balaji, again, most things sound automated in DSharp. So what took the most of the time? What couldn't DSharp do that you had to spend most of the time doing, and what were the challenges around things like manual customizations?
Yeah. Currently in our process, the mapping is the thing that takes most of the time, because for example, if you have this one class that the data is coming from different source systems, like from 3 source systems, and you have to map those, and you have to be careful that you map this correctly to each of the attributes. So the mapping is the most time consuming thing there, and we have plans how to make it even better. We have AI engines to help us in future, but that's actually the most time consuming thing right now. Also, another thing is that after we have created the data warehouse, what are the use cases you are creating out of that? What kind of information marts you are building? What kind of fact tables will better support your reporting? And what are the reports? The reporting side is, of course, as you know, that you can always fine-tune your report over and over again, and you are never happy with that. But that's another thing which is in some cases it's out of our reach how to make that easier, but we have plans for that too.
Yeah, I think I'll second that as well. It's from my experience, the mapping is one of the things that does take the most time. However, it's important to spend time on it and not rush it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I think we'll leave it there unless there's any further questions. Thank you so much for your time, everyone. And yeah, it's been great. Really good questions, really good discussion as always, and hopefully see you in the next one. Is there anything you wanted to add before we adjourn?
Well, from my side, it has been really fun, and I really appreciate the conversation here. So good to have this professional discussion and a thing that is very close to my heart. Thank you very much.